It's the Sports Peninsula podcast. Coming up, the Detroit Lions improved their record to 6-1 on this season as they pummeled the Tennessee Titans 52-14 last Sunday afternoon at Ford Field. The Lions absolutely dominated this game after the first quarter and never looked back. Now looking ahead to Week 9 is a trip to Lambeau Field to face the 6-2 Green Bay Packers. This game is very important to both teams, being a divisional game and for first place in a tough NFC North. We'll break down the preview and talk about if this is a must-win game for either club. Now here is your Sports Peninsula team. Well, I don't know about a must-win, but it's a must-watch episode of the Sports Peninsula podcast. Good evening, everybody. My name is Drew, and it is October 31st, All Hallows Eve, Halloween, and we took some time out from trick-or-treating to bring you our preview of the Detroit Lions Week 9 contest against the Green Bay Packers. And joining me in the roundtable first is Coach Andy Shield of the Marine City Mariners. And Coach, it never gets old when it's playoff time, does it?
No, it does not. It's been a full week of prep, and it's a special one for this guy because he's facing his former longtime stop in the Clintondale High School Clintondale Dragons. This is my 30th year of coaching high school football, and 26 of those 30 years were spent either on the sidelines or in the coach's box up in the booth for the Clintondale Dragons or the Marine City Mariners. So it's a unique one. Their coaching staff is comprised of former players that I coached there. So it's going to be really, really cool. And we will face them Friday at East China Stadium. Winner will take on winner of Warren, Michigan Collegiate and Royal Oak Shrine. So the stage is set for the district.
Yeah, I was taking a look at that too. Yep, and you guys certainly are, I think, fourth in points, if I wasn't mistaken, or at least
fourth in points in Division 6. Yeah, and so I mean, we tried to comprise a schedule that would get us to be competitive for Division 6, and that's the coin of the realm now as our enrollment continues to trend downward. When I first started at Marine City, we were Division 4. We won the Division 4 state championship in 2013. That was our last year in Division 13 because we were the smallest Division 4 school that year. And so we were in Division 5 from 2014 to 2023. And, for a 10-year run in Division 5, and now we are Division 6. So when we played, we were Division 3. So it's been quite a decline in enrollment at Old Marine City High, but we're still hanging and banging.
Awesome. Well, good luck. Good luck tomorrow on Friday. And thank you, Coach, for that's awesome, man. Love hearing the stories, man. Love hearing that. Loved when we got to talk to the coaches for Coach Glodich's book, A Run Through the River. That was just amazing. And people can look back on those as well. We have a playlist for all 3 of those episodes. Really cool stuff. So we'll talk more about that later. Let's talk to Justin Marroquin, Detroit's finest. How you doing, brother?
Doing good. Glad to be back with you guys. And, Halloween, a lot of tricks and treats going around, especially in the NFL. And a little trivia for all you guys and ladies listening. On this date, 98 years ago, the greatest magician of all time, Harry Houdini, passed away in Detroit at Grace Hospital at 1:26 p.m. Took his last breath. So it was a little trivia for you there.
That is correct. Very, very,
amazingly played by the great Tony Curtis in the movie. When I remember seeing that as a young kid, and I learned about that, I was like, wow, pretty cool. Yeah, I know that magic's been your thing too. That's cool. I'm glad you brought that up. I forgot about that, man. I just saw a documentary on him actually recently, and it's really cool. So definitely can't forget Houdini. But let's talk about. I don't think the Lions are playing any kind of Houdini tricks out there. They're just running roughshod through teams right now, and it is great to see. And it is not an aberration, folks. This team's for real. But they completely dominate the Tennessee Titans last week, 52-14. The Lions scored 38 unanswered points after they were tied 14-14 and early in the second quarter when the Titans scored a touchdown to tie it. And after that, it was all Detroit all the time. And guys, Coach, I'll start with you. Holy crap. I can't recall a game recently where the Lions dominated like that and just in such efficient fashion.
No. It's certainly showing the strength of the unit and and how this team is comprised, how that roster is comprised of players that fit the bill for what their role is, whatever it is in given scenario, is the greatest we've seen in our lifetime as 50-year-old Detroit Lions fans, as the two elder statesmen on this broadcast. And you know, we had one team. The 1991 team was supremely talented. We had major injuries on that team, and we overcame them. Went to the NFC Championship game. This team is much better than that team. You know, we don't maybe have a superstar of a Barry Sanders like caliber, but we have just beneath that pretty much 20-25 players. Yeah. So I mean, it's amazing, and we can't get lost on that fact when we go to look for whom we're going to need to accent this roster to get the pass rush that we need to make the ultimate run. But I will say this right now, and I certainly hope we do find something, because we do need it. We needed it when Aiden Hutchinson was healthy. So it's just more of a need now, at least in the interim. But you got to look at the 10 quarters. Basically, he got hurt fairly early in the third quarter.
Yeah, it was in the first 5 minutes
of the Dallas game.
Yep.
I will count that quarter as one of them. So there's 2 quarters in that game. And then there are the 8 subsequent quarters we played against Minnesota and Tennessee for 10 quarters. We look at the score of those 10 quarters, and that's Lions by a lot. It's Lions by a lot. So are we doing well without Aiden Hutchinson? Right now we are. We are. Can we do well without Aiden Hutchinson? Oh, we can. Can we be the very best version we can be without him? No, we cannot. So that we are not going to replace him. We are not going to replace number 97, Aiden Hutchinson.
No, you're right.
We are going to fill a role that he had played. Now, we'll get into that a little bit further down the line. But, I mean, I guess my point being right now is we are missing – I don't think we can – and we'll get back to the defense here in a minute. We got to be careful saying he's the best defensive player on the team, because there's arguments to be made there. There are. Mm-hmm. There are. There certainly are. But, I mean, let's face it. I mean, he's the face of the defense. And we're doing this well. It's a good day to be a Detroit Lions fan.
Yeah, it is. And Justin, let's touch on that a little further, because, and we talked about this last week on our episode, me, Coach, and I did. There's a lot of guys. I mean, who wouldn't want Max Crosby on your team? I mean, that's a foolish question. Financially, like I've told people, you really like Brian Branch too. You think he's a good player. Oh yeah, he's great. Bye. He's gone. You can't keep both. So if you want Max, you're gonna Jahmyr Gibbs, you like him too? Goodbye. He's gone. You can't afford all of those players. So, when you're building that nucleus, right? I mean, we can see what Holmes is trying to do, but there's some value out there though that you don't have to break the bank on. Who are you seeing?
I think the 2 biggest guys right now on the radar, and then I've heard today as well, is obviously Zadarius Smith, defensive end out of Cleveland. Still working on him, but I'm hearing that, the Lions are in a battle with both the Bears and the Falcons and trying to acquire him as well. So that's why this thing is dragging out. And then the other guy is on the New York Giants, Azeez Ojulari. So he's another guy, that's on the radar. But he's more of the linebacker type, not a true defensive end. I think Coach would agree with this. I think Holmes is looking for that big-bodied defensive end, that's got some weight on him, that's got the long arms. We have the linebackers, even though we're kind of depleted right now, but we need a big-bodied guy that can get after, the quarterback. So, and then some dark horses out there that, I don't know if they can give us that extra oomph, that push, but Jadeveon Clowney and Chase Young. I know he was brought up, last year, and then, San Francisco 49ers ended up, snagging him. But like you just said, do you like the current players and the youth that we have on this team? Well, that's what Holmes is trying to do. He's trying to keep that. And yes, I would love Max Crosby. I'd love that more than anything. But the roster and the budget is just not sustainable. You're looking at being the LA Rams, type of football team. Yes, they won the Super Bowl, but look at them now. Their pieces, were sold off, and they got to get back to, what they once were. And that's tough when you sell the farm and do all this stuff to acquire the Super Bowl trophy. Now, there has been discussions I've heard on sports radio and people saying, just go for broke, but this team is sustainable for the long term. Yes. Yeah, we could possibly win the Super Bowl, but then that's it. We're back to purgatory and talking about, man, woulda, coulda, shoulda, and save the Lions. I want this to be a long-term sustainability where you like what you saw Sunday against Tennessee. I want to see that for the next 3, 4, 5 years. And that can happen with the young nucleus of, football players we have. So I know I'm a little impatient too, but I do trust Brad Holmes, and I do think he's working his ass off behind the scenes to try to complement this team correctly and not just go for the shiny toy and go, oh, okay, just plug in and play. Because we've all seen that doesn't work out, too good either. So
yes.
Yeah. And there's ways that we can enhance this. I mean, because the body work has proven itself, Drew and Justin, that we are still doing very, very good without Aiden Hutchinson in this lineup. We can enhance this roster, this current output, without breaking the bank and without doing those things that Justin mentioned, which is what we don't want to do. We can do this. With expiring deals, he had made mention of a couple other players. There's one more, and there is a link to it. It certainly occurred before, and I think now after the game that we're going to talk about here in a few moments. That's Arden Key. His name has also been mentioned. He's on an expiring 1-year deal. Kind of a guy that's a back-end roster player that's really had some higher output. He's had 4.5 sacks the last 3 years, 4.5 sacks or more in each of the last 3 years, but he typically has been getting the 1-year deal treatment around the league. So, I mean, that's another player, and his tenders at looking at around the 7th round pick. Okay. That's certainly something I would consider parting with. The players in which Justin had mentioned, the price appears to be out there. So we kind of know the ballpark, and it's considered to be a really good day 3 pick for Zadarius Smith.
So 4th round.
A 4th rounder and the better of the 4th rounders. So, okay. I mean, I don't know. I mean, if somebody does go into the 3rd round, I mean, that pretty much has to put anybody into the 3rd round if you want to talk about, getting his services. We're also talking somewhere in the 3rd day for a Chase Young. So Chase Young has 2 sacks this year, 13 quarterback pressures. So it's pedestrian, but I would almost look at it this way. It's because it's not like we just lost Aiden Hutchinson as our edge. We also lost Marcus Davenport for the year. We also have John Kaminsky that's not playing right now. Yeah. We have Josh Pascal that's playing at the very limit of his ability right this moment, and he's fighting a lot of different things. And that's a lot of pressure to put on a guy that's got some health concerns.
So moved outside too.
And he's moved outside, and really he's found that natural fit inside, that he was being so good at. So, I mean, could we dare say if it was a 4th or 5th round draft pick, could we don't want to make a living trading 4th and 5th round draft picks.
No.
But in this scenario, is that selling the farm and getting both of those players? If you got both Zadarius Smith and Chase Young. I don't think it is. I don't think that's selling the farm.
No, not that.
I would look at acquiring both of them.
I would actually encourage that. I like what Coach said. I think you almost have to get 2 players. You really do, so that you can create different packages, different looks, different pressures, and whatnot, and these guys can complement each other. And like Coach just said, Josh Pascal, he's a jack of all trades, outside, inside. And then, Onzarike and Ali McNeil and Reeder, those guys do their thing. So then what do you have there? You have catastrophic defensive line, that you can create a lot of different wrinkles and looks. So I think in this case, you have to go get two guys. If we just get one, I think, we'll be all right. Obviously, we've had 2 games removed from Aiden Hutchinson. We looked okay. Our blitz rate has gone up tremendously. We can't sustain that because teams, good teams will figure that out, good offenses. But if we get 2 guys, then we're really working, with the high-powered defense.
Well, Drew, what do you think of the guys that we have on roster right now? I mean, outside of the ones that we had mentioned, some of the younger players or the recently acquired players like Isaiah Thomas and Al-Qadim Muhammad. What are your thoughts on some of these guys? I mean, because stars are born, in this league in middle of season sometimes. I mean, Victor Cruz is an example of a guy that, popped up kind of in the middle of a season because he was a practice squad guy that got activated and elevated and, became a star. So, I mean, what do you think of some of those guys?
Well, they're going to get their opportunity, right? Coming up on Sunday. So they're certainly going to get that. And at the end of the day, I mean, the fact that we're still talking about it, and I like Campbell. Campbell's been very transparent. I mean, that's as transparent as you're going to get out of a coach. I mean, mind you, when he danced around like that, I mean, the media ate that up. Like, oh, he knows there's a deal in place. Well, maybe there is, but it's, he ain't going to tell you that. But Dan Campbell's very transparent. I do appreciate that as a fan. I like that he gives good, solid answers during sessions like that, and I think that speaks volumes about the guy and how kind of guy he is, how he coaches. But I mean, they're looking because obviously, and you never know. You're right, Coach. A star could be born. I mean, it could happen. I mean, hell, we saw James Houston get 8.5 sacks in 8 games his rookie year after he missed the first half of the season injured. So anything could happen, but I think I agree with what you guys are saying, though. To go after a couple of guys like Arden Key, who really was at one time a first-round draft pick prospect, and he fell down to, I believe, day 3, 4th round due to some behavioral issues or whatever. I don't even remember the exact thing, but he's been very solid in the NFL. And like Coach said, he's always playing for these 1-year deals. That would be a great get. And then Chase Young, he's on an expiring contract. You never know what the Lions could actually bring out of him because we know what kind of talent he has.
And I don't know if he's just holding the smoking ace and he's just going to willing to do it because Darius Smith is under contract. I know he'll be 33 years old, but he's under contract for the 25 season. Mm-hmm. Maybe he'll just say, "We'll give you the 3rd. We'll go to a 3rd round pick."
That's possible.
And then okay, then we have a deal.
That's what I'm thinking too.
And then from there, if we had to do that, then we may want to pump the brakes on expending too much draft capital. But if you could then go and do something like this, Arden Key, like Azeez Ojulari, is a little bit more that linebacker edge rush piece that we sort of already have in the frame of James Houston and now Isaiah Thomas. Those 2 players, James Houston's is just never quite reached that caliber that he had with the 8.5 sacks he had in his rookie year and that back end of his rookie year. He just has not been able to get back into that kind of zone. And like I say, Isaiah Thomas is going to have a very, very small window to prove himself. And Al-Qadim Muhammad, they're going to have a very it's this week. Yeah, and because somehow Malik Willis, if he's the starter, and as of today, I think he would be, if he's the starter and he runs around on us and extends plays and they kind of figure us out enough on defense or on offense and we don't have, the greatest of our days and get beat, that it's not of course it's not, the walls are caving in or anything like that, but it's going to really be, hey, we got to get something done by Tuesday.
So, let's before we go any further, let's touch on this Tennessee game here. I mean, and not much there's a lot of good to talk about, but at the end of the day, right, Coach, this is that was another game. another home game against an AFC team that only had one win. You got to take care of business there. And Justin, the first quarter though was kind of interesting. Talk about what you saw.
I was a little panicked. Mason Rudolph was back there looking like Tom Brady, and actually, running in for a score as well. I was like, what is going on? Calvin Ridley, going off, and now mind you, they got rid of DeAndre Hopkins. They shipped him off to Kansas City. So you're thinking, oh, we'll just take away Ridley and, that's that. And he was just, going, ham on us, in the first quarter. But, things quieted down and whatnot. But what I don't like out of that is that if a team gets up on us so quick, and I know we have a high-powered offense, but I do not like that, playing from behind type role, and I don't want us to get into those kind of situations down the road, down these games, because we're going to play some really good teams coming up here. I believe we have, the second or third hardest schedule from here on out. I believe the Chicago Bears have the toughest schedule from here on out.
Yeah, it's just the way it's luck of the draw. I know a lot of fans think, and understandably, back in the day, 4 of your games were against opponents in other divisions, but it was only 2. Now it's actually back to 3. But you automatically you can predict 14 of your 17 games every year. You can look, there's a pattern to it. You're going to play your divisional teams twice, one NFC division and then another AFC division. And then those 3 at-large games are against those other divisions that you aren't locked into. You play, in this case, the Lions were in first. That's how Tampa Bay and Dallas ended up on the schedule, and they were pretty good, and it's just, it's tough being good, I guess. I don't know, man, but Coach, we talked about, a lot today, and this is awesome. I love this. This is great because we're on the ESPN network now, so we get an hour time slot. So we can talk a little more. We're not just bang, 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 done. See you later. But in that game, it was 14-14 right when the second quarter started, and all of a sudden things changed pretty rapidly.
They went 2 for 1 once, and it really wasn't 2 for 1. It wound up being 3 for 1, then 4 for 1, then 5 for 1, then 6 for 1, and then finally a 7th score without a repeat. So I mean, it really was a tale of 2 rosters. Once the Lions were able to make a little bit of an adjustment in some of their coverage and buy a little bit more time and, kind of force them to be a little bit different in some of their play calling. And then the roster discrepancy took over. And that, and my exhibit A on that indictment is the Tennessee Titan punt team versus the Detroit Lion punt return team. And the utter mismatch that was on Sunday. I mean, the team that won by 38 was going to win that football game. And you had Jared Goff go 10 for 12 for 82 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's like a power T wishbone quarterback offense passing output. And I mean, and they won by 38 points. So, I mean, we're in a good place, folks. We're in a really good place right now. And, we want to make ourselves to be the very best we can be so that we can beat a Pat Mahomes in a big game or a Jalen Hurts or a Jordan Love or whomever it's going to be in a big game. And yes, we do need to enhance, but folks, we're in a really, really good place. That was just thoroughly fun to be a part of as a Detroit Lions fan. That game was.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and you know what else is really cool right now, Justin, is the Lions are 5-1 in their conference. This is very important, folks. If we shouldn't need to go back in time too far with the DeLorean to understand that having conference record that's favorable is going to help you in the standings in the playoffs, because we're not used to that. We're going to get used to it because this team's going to be a playoff team for a while. That's why we don't want that window to close too quick. But this is a game, obviously not a non-conference game, but against a team with 1 win. But like we were talking about their roster, and Coach was right. I mean, the deficiencies eventually showed themselves, but I mean, up front, that Tennessee defense at least was pretty good on paper. But they kind of, I would say they at least somewhat held their own. They were put in some bad positions, obviously, by special teams. I mean, Khalif Raymond was amazing, but and I just read this. I want to get your take on this, Justin. I believe that only 3 Detroit Lions have been the offensive player of the month, at least going back to the early 90s, and that would be Barry Sanders, Calvin Johnson, and now Jared Goff. Talk about that.
It's just incredible. I mean, you and Coach have both, said it over and over again, in this show that this team is just exhilarating. Like they're high powered. They just take off. Goff has really got a command of this football team, and you could tell that he's very respected by all of his teammates. Not just the offensive side of the football. They're all one big unit, and that just trickles down. They all play hard for each other. And I believe, too, on one of those punt returns, I think our whole starting defense was on punt return as well. And they were all blocking, their behinds off, for Raymond. And how about Raymond? Just love that guy. He's so reliable. He's so quiet, so humble. And we can go back to, when this whole thing started with the turnaround with the Lions, at Lambeau Field when, he made that great catch, late in the season, So he's just a guy that just he pops up and you're like, oh, I forgot about him. And then how about Tim Patrick too? He's doing a lot of dirty work, as in he's doing a lot of blocking, and he's, playing unselfish football right now. And he's an unsung hero of this football team. And, he's bought into the program as well. I love that guy. Laporta got going, on National Tight End Day. So did Brock Wright. It was just, the love was just spread around. So, and then you have, Sonic and Knuckles with, Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, as we call him, Monty. Yeah, unbelievable. The offensive line. If you watch Penei Sewell, I mean, he's dragging a grown man, NFL player, 15 yards downfield and just blowing him up. Like, I think, and I said it in our group text the other day, Penei Sewell's top 5 player in the league out of all positions. He is a monster. He's an animal, and it's just unassuming because if you're not looking for it, you don't realize how good he actually is. So you put this all together, I mean, there is no limit for this football team. I firmly believe that, so moving forward, they can, just build upon each game. And I think they are just having that success, especially us beating the brakes off the Cowboys. That really gave us, a lot of confidence, and then after that game, of course, defeating Minnesota. So I just love this team. It's great. And to add to your point too, Brian Branch should have been defensive player of the month, but he lost out to, I believe, Jair Alexander of the Green Bay Packers. So
one more pick.
So, but that's okay. But yeah, this team is it's so much fun to watch. And how about the national exposure too? Everyone's talking about the Lions. NFL Network, ESPN reporters, they're all talking about the Lions, in a positive light, which we have not seen in a very long time.
Coach, that's a nice little segue there, Justin. The only time I can recall is when Barry Sanders was on the team, and Chris Berman and Tom Jackson were doing NFL prime time on ESPN, and he would call Wayne Fontes Rasputin because every time it looked like Wayne Fontes was going to get fired, they go on a winning streak and squeak into the playoffs and get the brakes beat off them in the wild card. But no, I can. Does it make sense to you, Coach?
I mean, I'm very, very, very grateful and have a lot of gratitude that I get to see it a little, closer than maybe I would have in the past. And, yeah, I mean, the NFL Network sending Stacey Dales to Ford Field for our home games. I mean, that's their lead person. She's there. And, yeah, I mean, the Lions are getting the camera pylon games more than they did in the past. You're getting the Wildcat camera games more than you did in the past. And those are just your traditional 1 o'clock starts. Now they're going to start, every once in a while pushing things to 4, You're going to see that a little bit more. But I mean, look at all these different Thursday night, Sunday night, Monday night football games that we have. I know I've got a, I'll test the waters and have to play a little hockey. I mean, hooky, come Thursday, December 5th, because I got to go to the second job a little early that day. So I think I'm gonna have to get the sniffles around 10 a.m. and then head down to the old ballpark. But that's it's really good times. I mean, and it is. It's just the expectations. You still get that kind of nervous rush in your stomach. That nervousness is a good thing, because I think as a fan, I mean, we were nervous before. Can we win? Can we do it? Well, it's not so much that. It's just like, are we going to, is the offense going to look the way we need it to look? And now we've set the real stage, because this one was real pretty. I mean, 52-14. I mean, that was real pretty. Can't expect that every time. We can't expect 47-9 every time.
No.
And more. And you know what, guys? We're going to lose a game. We're going to. We are going to get slip. We're going to slip up. I mean, as of right now, and I know that's not this for this episode, we're not going to go back through the roster and re-pick things. But yeah, I mean, does this feel like something that could be like a 14-3 or something like that? It does kind of feel that way.
Oh yeah,
it does kind of feel like it's going in that general direction, where when we lose, we surround it with 4 victories.
Yeah.
Like it does kind of feel like that's where things are going. But as we learned early in the third quarter of the game in Dallas, even though we went hog wild in that one, things can change in a hurry.
Yeah.
Things that can change in a hurry. So, to not belabor this game anymore, I mean, to go into it, we know it was 52-14. We saw what we saw, and it was a further exclamation point as to who the Detroit Lions are. It's just, can we not have more attrition to this roster? Because, we need to keep it, as clean and healthy as we possibly can. Yeah,
and that's a great segue there too, Coach, because let's start talking about this week coming up here. And here's the injury report. And we already know, you touched on it, number 97 in that Dallas game in the third quarter. Done for the year, unfortunately. Derek Barnes, that was lost early in the season, and that doesn't get talked about that much because, he's his next man up. Rodrigo steps up, and off we go. With Anzalone and Jack Campbell having a great second year so far, but again, and you lose Marcus Davenport in week 2, I believe. So already, like Coach was saying, the Lions already kind of had a need at defensive end for additional pass rush support. And, certainly now losing who are your 2 starting defensive ends in week 1 for the year, that's a tough spot. But it just shows, it shows folks, to say, oh, just throw the draft capital on. If you give them a couple first round picks, who are you going to get spare Max Crosby? Well, you're right. You might get a guy like that. But number one, does anyone recall the round that Max Crosby was drafted in? I believe it was round 4. Out of Eastern Michigan University. We knew him well. We didn't think he'd be a first-round pick. We certainly thought highly of him. Actually, we're surprised he slipped to day 3, if I recall. Thought maybe he was going to be a day 2 guy in that draft. But at the end of the day, yeah, his value's there. But, I don't want to go down that again. We already talked about that. But, it's the draft capital is important to this Detroit Lions team because of what Brad Holmes can do with it. It's Monra St. Brown's a 4th-round pick. Rodrigo was a 6th-round pick. Derek Barnes was a 4th-round pick, I believe, or a 3rd-round pick. Brad Holmes is a magician with draft picks. So we don't want to throw those around. But I do agree going after a Zadarius Smith or a Chase Young and giving up a couple of day 3s, if it took a 3rd-round pick to get Smith, I would want to see an offset on his cap hit for the year for 25. I'd want to see Cleveland picking up a little bit of that tab. And maybe that's worth at one round because it's going to give you cap relief the next year. Because I think he's like a $9 million cap hit next year. He actually would cost them more if to release him because he has $14 million in dead cap money. So that's why I think, Coach, you were saying he's definitely on the team next year if we go get him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So there, so there it is. Obviously, again, there was a need here, but then got Melifonwu, who's still been out all season. He's been practicing. So has Broderick Martin. So now we haven't talked much about Broderick Martin, guys, but he's it'd be interesting to see him in the game here and giving us a nice rotational piece there because he actually looked pretty good in the preseason. Coach, your thoughts?
He's a big man. He's a big man, and he's a guy that can envelop an interior run game and can force and set a pocket. So those are good things to be able to bring to the table. And he certainly can do that. Does he do it as well as DJ Reader? No. Is he as active as Aleem McNeil? No. Is he a really big defensive lineman that kind of plays a style maybe a little differently than any of those guys? Yeah. So Broderick Martin can bring his own identity to this game, just being a gigantic space-eating defensive lineman, rotational piece, like you had said, when the need is given there, once we can get him healthy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, great point. And Justin, on top of those guys, here's the more concerning stuff here. Rodrigo did not practice today due to the ankle, and that one didn't look too great when it happened. Taylor Decker had limited participation due to a chest pec injury. I'm not sure. It just said chest. Could be a contusion. I'm not sure. He was limited. Pascal did not practice. I think you touched on that earlier, Coach, due to illness. It's listed. And Makai Wingo was a limited participant due to ankle. So I think of those guys, though, it looks like probably Rodrigo is the one that's he'll probably be listed as questionable, but I'm not sure we're going to see him. But Justin, your thoughts?
Yeah, there's one name. I mean, all those are very important to our football team, but there's one name that really has me concerned, and that's Taylor Decker. I thought he didn't have a very good game against Tennessee, and he's been kind of lagging. So I don't know if it's just the nagging injuries that are catching up to him that's kind of offsetting his game, but he has not been playing well at all. So we'll see, against Sunday against Green Bay, how well, he holds up and if he kind of turns it around. But that's something to keep your eye on. And hopefully, the injuries don't get, become too insurmountable that, he's out and then we got to, shuffle that lineup again and, plug in someone else. But yeah, I'm concerned about him. Obviously he's a gamer. He's been here through, the bad times and now, the good times. But I'm concerned about, his level of play as of late.
It would be, and no knock on Iowa Sika, Coach, but it would probably be good to get if Zeitler comes back. And I think it's looking like he's trending like he's going to be back. So if Glasgow moves back over to left guard, that might help a little bit.
Yeah, and we have Christian Mahogany now starting to practice, and that really is, I think, the hopeful one that hopefully soon to be right guard number 2. So that would be behind Kevin Zeitler. I know there's even hope that he could be kind of eventually a replacement for Kevin Zeitler at some given point in time. Kevin Zeitler may sign yet another maybe 1-year deal in return at a good cost.
That'd be awesome.
Price, and groom 1 more year. So, Christian Mahogany can be fully healthy and get a whole full year and be a guy that jumps right in there as an undrafted free agent, starting a player, which that's the Brad Holmes way. I mean, he's done it time and time again. And last year we had Christian Mahogany as a dark horse preview in our Sportsman's Podcast draft preview for interior offensive linemen. So we know he's a good, capable player. He's a lion, lunch pail, grit type guy. There's yet another name that is going to be heard from in the near future when it comes to the Detroit Lions offensive line depth.
Yeah, it's again, then it goes to Brad Holmes, what he can do, man, at the draft table, man. The guy just has an eye for talent. Hey, I don't have a list, but I at least on for the screen, I apologize, but I do have like the Green Bay names, and Jair Alexander's been he did not practice due to a knee again. Corey Ballantyne, the cornerback, was limited with an ankle. Kenny Clark had a shoulder. It said shoulder and toe limited participant, probably dealing with a turf toe. Sounds like, but Kenny Clark, he's a big time player. Josh Jacobs limited with the ankle. We talked about Jordan Love with the groin. He's limited. Their center, Josh Myers, has a wrist. He didn't practice. So that's interesting. And Rasheed Walker, the left tackle, and he was a limited participant. Evan Williams, the safety, had a hamstring. He did not practice. And then Devontae Wyatt, the defensive lineman, was limited as well. They got quite a list of players out right there. Man, Justin, I'd hate. I mean, I have no sympathy for the Green Bay Packers. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, if your center and your quarterback aren't playing, that's not good.
No, not good for Green Bay. Good for us. But,
yeah, it's good for Detroit. Yeah.
I don't know about you guys, but I can't remember. In recent memory, there's just been tremendous injuries across the NFL. It's widespread. There's really no team that's not not feeling the effects of that. It's just seems to be everywhere. But good for us this week. This is a division game. This is a huge game. So yeah, if their center and their quarterback can't go, and the running back, it's an ankle issue. That's pretty big for a running back. You need that ankle.
Yeah.
I think the other guys will play, like Jair Alexander. He'll probably be ready to go, and we need to watch out for him. But that'll be huge if the center and the quarterback, Jordan Love, can't go. That will be big time. But we still got to take care of business because Malik Willis is still a serviceable backup, and he also said it too. Hey, I'm auditioning for a starting role for teams for next season.
Good point.
So you better believe he's going to bring it if he's going to be under center. If he's tapped the number one guy. So got to be very careful of that. Playing for a contract. Essentially, and probably a bigger one for next season. So we just have to watch out. But hey, this is the NFL. It's unforgiving at times. So sometimes the breaks go your way as far as injuries, and sometimes they don't. In this case, it might be trending in our direction that, we're kind of just a little bit above Green Bay with the injuries. So, yeah, I don't feel bad.
No, and that's saying something with Hutch out like that, and Barnes too. I mean, that's just unreal. Yeah. I think the injuries are definitely higher. And it's this season. I mean, I wouldn't say I don't have the data in front of me that there was like an exponential spike in any year recently, but this year definitely does seem higher. And not just the Lions. I mean, like the 49ers have been decimated. The Buccaneers are decimated right now. The Rams got hit.
Texas just lost Stephon Diggs for the whole season.
Yeah, there you go.
ACL out.
So, I mean, before we dissect this matchup against the Packers, Coach, you kind of touched on it earlier, and I want to get your thoughts first. I mentioned in the intro, is this a must-win game, period? And if it is, for whom? Your thoughts?
No, it's not a must-win game. I mean, we are well in hand. We're not losing the division if we don't win this football game. Is it a game that, I think everyone's expecting to win? Of course, is this game going to be one that plays out to be one of those ones that we lose? Well, we're going to Green Bay. We're going on the road to a place we've historically struggled at. Not as of recent. Recently, we've done very, very well at this stadium.
Yeah.
But, we have struggled at this place long term. We are definitely circled on this schedule. But the name that I want circled on the injury list, and the one that it really starts and finishes there, is Jordan Love.
Yeah.
If he is not playing in this football game, oh man, does that change things? Because you have the running element with Willis, and yes, he's got a big arm and those kinds of things. But the accuracy and the ability to play on that deep ball and the throws that Jordan Love has shown that he can make, just how, unhealthy is that groin, which is a big deal. His mobility will be limited and that's certainly a big piece to his game. But if it is Malik Willis, we will have yet a running quarterback that we have struggled. That's a concept we've struggled with the exception of this year. We did a nice job with Kyler Murray. Yeah. So, hey, if we could defend Kyler Murray, who I think is a little bit better than Malik Willis, I do like our chances.
Yeah, and I know Hutch was playing in that game, and what I noticed in that one is and it's one of his go-to moves where he does the inside spin. But when you're playing against a guy like Kyler Murray or Lamar Jackson or Jordan Love in this case, which unfortunately won't be playing against him, to be a little less aggressive or less overcommitting like that and allowing them to escape and hurt you outside the pocket. They did a fantastic job of containing Kyler Murray this year. You're right. And I hope that game plan is still going to be instilled, regardless of who's playing defensive end, because they've got to contain that pocket. You can trust the secondary. I think that's the big difference. And I don't know, Justin, I know your thoughts on that. Is it because the secondary has gotten that much better that now the Lions are able to not overcommit on the pass rush as much and still find success?
I think it's a little bit of both. Obviously, for some time now, we've asked that pass rush, to get there to the quarterback, and obviously, if you give your corners, that complement to your game, your whole defense, they in turn perform better. But if you saw in that game Sunday against Tennessee, Kirby Joseph was getting an earful from Aaron Glenn, and talking about positioning and angles and whatnot, and then he shaped up real quick. And, Arnold, too, for a rookie, I know a lot of people ragging on with the holding and the, pass interference and whatnot. He's getting better each game that I see.
True.
And, yeah, it's going to come. He's a rookie. A lot of stuff you can get away with in college, especially playing the SEC and whatnot. So he's learning that, and that's a testament to Glenn's coaching. That is all, telling his guys how to play, the position and how to perform, week in and week out, and they're getting better. So I think, yes, you can trust that secondary. And then look at Brian Branch, he's a certified ball hawk. I mean, he's been talked about all over the media outlets for, the NFL. This guy is a human Swiss Army knife for your defense. And then you got Kirby Joseph, then you got Arnold and Carlton Davis. He's quietly, putting together, really good games, and he's taken on, really good wide receivers. And, they're all hanging in there. So I think, I think it's a little bit of both. And, of course, that pass rush still getting there with that mix of Reeder, Onwuzurike, and Aleem McNeil. Those guys, kind of doing their thing. But, yeah, we need that outside help still, though. Obviously, with Hutch gone, we need it. And if you watch a little bit more of that game, and I was watching James Houston very closely, I can see what Dan Campbell was talking about earlier in the season when he said, we need to see some more versatility out of him. And you know what? I hate to say it, he doesn't have it. I see what the coaches were talking about. And I see why, he's not the 8-sack James Houston that, we grew to love about him. He's got I don't know if he can figure it out, but right now he's just a one-trick pony. He tries to use that bull rush method like Aiden Hutchinson does, and he just gets swallowed up by these big tackles. So I don't know, maybe you should talk to Mekhi Wingo, because that guy, for being undersized, he can put on some moves, and he's got some skill sets. So if we get that defensive end help, that will obviously, upgrade this defense immensely.
Yeah, Coach, do you have something?
Oh, no, I just was totally agreeing with you. I mean, we address that position group, and you get that body frame player and that skill-setted player. It alleviates that issue that you're trying to play kind of a square peg in a round hole when you got a James Houston trying to play truly off the edge, aligned tightly like a defensive end, because he just doesn't have the lever and length to really match, just kind of like how Justin said, those big, long-rangey, big offensive tackles. They just kind of envelop you, and you're engulfed, and just you can't get underneath it. And now you're just trying to press and do speed to power moves and frame a quarterback up. It's the best thing that you can possibly do. And he's proven he can do that. Josh Paschal's proven he can do that. But guys, that's very, very pedestrian pass rush. It's responsible pass rush, but it's not very threatening pass rush.
That makes perfect sense, Coach. So we've talked a lot about the defense here, guys. Let's talk a little bit about the offense. Now let's assume that most everybody that's on this injured list for Green Bay is going to be ready to go, like Alexander. I know Quay Walker's been a full participant. He'd been out with a concussion. He's going to be back, so we know he's back too. But assuming everybody's healthy on this Green Bay team, Coach, how do you attack this Green Bay defense? Because they're very talented.
Yeah, they are. And you mentioned some defensive backs that may or may not play in this game, and some darn good ones at that. Maybe their 2 starting corners are potentially down. Once again, that is going to spell good things for our ability to throw the football, and probably eventually do some different things in regards to the middle of the field and down the field. But once again, we're going to have a script, and we are going to see if we can just run the football against this team. And if we can do that, everything will start to click, because they'll have to adjust and bring an extra defender inside. And now we can start playing 2-for-1 and doing some mismatches and running people off and doing different backfield motions and saving something, a little pocket ace in your back pocket when you get to, around the 8-9 yard line on second down, and, put in some score, 3 different people throw the football or something like that, and play Lions football. But, I just really think you're going to see them come out and be very similar to what they've been the last couple of weeks. They may throw the football 3 plays and get a 3 and out their first series. And then the next one, they'll have the adjustment made as to how they want to attack it and go right down the line. But, they're going to kind of tease, I think, at first, and then eventually try to get in there and see if they can sink their teeth into these guys and just run the football on them, and be very similar to the last couple of game plans.
Yeah, I tell you what, the question I have, and Justin, I'm gonna throw it to you to talk about the way the Lions run the football. Like Coach said, the adjustments get made. Once they establish that run, you got to bring that extra guy in the box. I mean, can Green Bay stop the Lions run game enough to even word that they don't have to bring that extra guy in the box, in your opinion?
I don't think so. Is it possible? Yeah, of course. It's any given Sunday. We watch the games every week.
Nope.
Besides our team, the Lions, the whole league. But I just don't think so. This offensive line is a very good group. Now, like Coach said, there will be a script. Will we get stopped? Possibly a 3 and out. Yeah, that's possible. You're going to play in Lambeau Field. Green Bay could be, very hostile, and you're not, things aren't just going your way. But I think what's good about this football team, the Lions, is that they find their way, and we're just too talented. Jahmyr Gibbs, I think he's taken a big step up this year than last year, and his vision, and obviously we know it's just, God-given talent. His speed is unmatched. And then Montgomery, he's the hammer, very physical guy. So I think the body of work that you've already seen this season, I think it'll continue. Now, I will say, and Belichick pointed this out, on his show that I believe it's on the CW. He pointed out, because they posed him the question, well, how do you stop this Lions offense? He said, you don't stop it totally. He said, but I think what you want to do is look at the Tampa Bay game and kind of play the Lions similarly to what Tampa Bay did, and then you could kind of, do what you want there. So if Green Bay makes adjustments like that, then yeah, it could probably be a long afternoon for us. But I just don't see it happening. I think, the holes will be there, and I think Ben Johnson will be creative in the way, these running plays will be crafted. And if they bust through both of these guys or just one of these guys, then that opens up the play action pass. You're going to see a lot more Laporta. Brock Wright, we know, can stretch the field too. And Brock Wright is very good at faking out the defenses and, I'm blocking, and then there you go, you get the ball. We saw that, with the Jets, when he won that game. So no, to answer your question, I don't think they're going to be able to stop the run.
Now it's in Lambeau, obviously, Coach, and you touched on lately the Lions have had success. They're 5-1 in the last 6 games against the Packers. 3-0 at Lambeau. They lost that one in Detroit on Thanksgiving last year, right? So the fans travel well to Lambeau, and they're going to have that support there. But let's talk about the home field advantage here, which it is. Lambeau Field is a home field advantage for the Packers. How are they going to overcome that?
Well, I mean, you practice outside, practice on grass, and playing the same weather on Sunday that the Green Bay Packers are going to play in. So, I mean, it's just, on the road for the Lions typically means a game outdoors. And in this case, it's a game on grass. So field conditions will be something that's an equal issue for both teams, and weather conditions, wind, that kind of thing. Both teams are gonna have to contend with that as well. So best as you can do is prepare. I mean, for that and the hostile environment that Lambeau Field will present.
Yeah, you're right. And what's nice is the elements aren't going to be a factor. It doesn't look like on Sunday. And now obviously things can change. We're recording this on Halloween here, so things can change. But I don't think we're going to see 20 degrees and snow and sleet.
Not probably quite that drastic. With northern Wisconsin, Door County, or that Green Bay, Lake Michigan, Wisconsin, northern Lake Michigan, Wisconsin weather can change a little bit, like the good old Michigan. Wait 15 minutes and see what you got. They can experience that a little bit too, but I don't think it's gonna be quite that drastic. And that's fortunate. When we do play them later in the year, they're gonna be indoors in Detroit. So
there you go. There you go. So let's talk about what we think is going to happen here, fellas. It's hard for, Coach. We've all been. Justin's been a part of this for a while now, and Coach and I, we started this seventh season now, and it's so refreshing that it doesn't feel like a negative experience having to rehash yet another defeat. These last 2.5 years have been just amazing. To talk about possibly winning yet again at Lambeau when we went from our senior year of high school to 2014 was it when the Lions finally broke the Lambeau streak? Yeah. I mean, oh my gosh, and here again, seniors in high school, since they'd won a playoff game. I mean, and just this last year it happens, but it's really cool to be able to talk. Speak pretty confidently about the Lions' chances at Lambeau, but talk about how you see this going down.
Well, I do think we'll move the football a little bit. Green Bay is going to be, I don't believe we're going to see Jordan Love. I think we're going to see Malik Willis. I think that's going to be helpful to us, and I do think we will win this football game. I'm going to go Lions 24, Packers 14.
24-14. I like that. Justin, how you seeing it?
I just think our offense is just firing on all cylinders. I just think Green Bay plays catch up with us, and we just, we're just a little bit out in front, and we always are 2 or 3 steps ahead of them, and they're just going to be playing catch up. So I have the Lions winning this game 30-20.
I got the Lions winning this game as well. I got a little closer. I see 31-28. I don't think the game's going to be in doubt per se, but I don't think they're going to be able to get a couple scores ahead. And I think, and especially if Jordan Love's playing, if not, that changes everything. But I'm assuming he's going to play. So we all see him winning. Hey, check us out on the ESCN network on Roku, folks. Thanks for watching. We're on on Saturdays at 7 p.m. Every Saturday at 7 p.m. Check out our Facebook, YouTube page, Twitter page. Subscribe, like. We appreciate your support. Take care, everybody. We'll talk to you soon. This has been the Sports Peninsula Podcast. To subscribe to the podcast, simply click the subscribe button on our YouTube channel's homepage and give us a like. You can also follow our audio podcast on multiple platforms, including Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, and Google Podcasts, just to name a few. Give us a follow on Twitter. Our handle is @SportsPodcast to check out our latest releases. Thank you again for watching and for your support. Remember, when you want to hear all about sports in the great state of Michigan, there is only one Sports Peninsula Podcast.